We put the house in Ethan's name. My mom smirked after I paid every mortgage bill. Then watch him pay the lawyer, I replied while filing fraud charges and kicking them out. I never saw it coming, being turned on by my own relatives. I couldn't imagine my own mother staring at me, grinning and taking it all away like I was nothing. Yet, that's exactly what happened, and that's why I made sure I got the final say. Let's go back to where it all began. I was raised in a small town in upstate New York. Money was always short in our family. My father repaired cars and my mother worked in a school office. They gave it their all, but we always lived paycheck to paycheck. There were just 2 kids, me and my younger brother. Mark. Mark was always the favorite. He was never punished or blamed. If he misbehaved in class, our parents defended him. If he got a low score, they pointed fingers at the instructor. If he smashed his vehicle, somehow they scraped together funds to buy another. Meanwhile, I had to fight for everything. Perfect grades weren't rewarded. They were demanded. If I wanted extras, I had to find part-time work. I took my first job at 15 and kept working nonstop. When I got older, I enrolled in college and paid my own way, working evenings and weekends while handling full-time classes. Mark, meanwhile, barely made it through high school. He spent most of his 20s drifting from one gig to the next, living at home, wasting cash, and making reckless choices. Still, my parents let him stay. I slowly moved up in the finance sector. The work was tiring and demanding, but the salary was solid. By 38, I had a reliable job and healthy savings. My parents, however, were not doing well. My dad's condition worsened, and they were drowning in hospital debt. Their house was falling apart, and they started discussing whether to sell and rent something small to survive. I couldn't watch them struggle. Despite how I'd been treated, they were still my family. So, I made what I thought was the right move. I decided to purchase them a new house. Not just a basic place, but a peaceful, cozy home in a nice area near doctors, Mark's seats, and whatever else they might need. Somewhere they could rest at last after a lifetime of effort. There was only one rule. The house would stay under my name. Not because I didn't believe in them, or at least that's what I convinced myself, but because I was footing the bill. It was a serious expense, and I wanted to keep things secure in case anything went wrong. They agreed without protest. My mom even broke down in tears, thanking me again and again. My dad, who rarely expressed emotion, told me he was proud. That meant a lot. For 3 full years, I paid for everything. Mortgage, taxes, upkeep, every expense. Meanwhile, Mark me kept living there rent-free, jumping from one low-effort job to the next. I never said anything. I figured as long as my parents were doing well, it was fine. Then came Christmas. We were all at the dinner table, eating food, sipping drinks, laughing like normal. And then suddenly my mom smiled sweetly, set down her fork, and said, "Oh, by the way, sweetheart, we changed the house ownership to Mark's name." I sat frozen. I stared at her, thinking I must have misheard. "What did you say?" I asked at last. Mark leaned back, smirking. "Yeah, so you might want to begin packing. We're not kicking you out right away, but technically it's not your place anymore." My chest tightened. I looked from one to the other, hoping it was some kind of joke. My mother smiled like she hadn't just betrayed me. "It's only right," she explained. "Mark doesn't have anywhere else to stay. You're strong. You'll manage." I was stunned. I had bought that house. I had covered every bill, and now they were giving it away to Mark, treating me like some guest who had overstayed. I looked at my dad, hoping for support, but he kept his eyes on his meal, refusing to meet my gaze. He knew it was wrong. But as always, he stayed silent when it involved Mark. Mark raised his glass, clearly enjoying himself. "No need to rush, man," he said. "But yeah, maybe start hunting for a new place." I inhaled deeply, steadying my thoughts. After that, I grabbed my glass of watermelon juice, took a drink, and quietly said, "Actually, you should double-check the property title." Everything froze. Marka's grin faded. My mother squinted. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her tone suddenly sharp. I gently placed the glass on the table. "I'm saying this house was never legally yours," I explained. "It was bought in my name, and I never handed it over." Her face lost all color. "That's not correct," she replied quickly. "Where'd the money come from?" I cut her off. "I covered the cost. I handled the payments, taxes, and all the upkeep. You never had ownership to pass on." Mark shifted nervously. "Mom," he said, sounding unsure now, but she kept going. "We filled out the documents," she argued. "The lawyer helped us." "What lawyer?" I asked. "Because I never agreed to or signed anything." Their expressions fell apart. That was the moment they understood. They had absolutely nothing. No paperwork, no legal advantage, no hold over me. That's when I knew the moment for payback had arrived. The room turned quiet. Mark's smugness had disappeared, his face now stuck between worry and disbelief. My mother's confident smile trembled, struggling to make sense of what I'd said. My dad just kept staring down, breathing out slowly like he had expected everything to go wrong. I let the silence drag out a little longer, then leaned backward. "So," I said while gently rotating the watermelon juice in my glass, "whose name is listed on the house deed?" My mom reacted first. "No way," she shouted. "We completed the transfer. Marka's name is on it." I tilted my head slightly. "Is that so?" I asked. Mark glanced at her in frustration. "You told me it was settled," he mumbled. The cockiness in his voice was gone. I assumed it was," she said, then faced me again, her mouth tightening. "You tricked us." I let out a short laugh. "I tricked you?" I repeated. "I paid for this house. I took care of the expenses. I made sure you could retire peacefully. And I'm the one who fooled someone. You tried to betray me." Mark scooted his chair back. "Whatever," he muttered. "We'll just fix the documents." I raised my eyebrow. "Oh, yeah? And how do you think you'll do that?" "We'll talk to the lawyer again," my mom answered quickly, holding on to the table like she could still control the situation. "We'll get the deed switched for real." I smiled calmly. "Let's see you try." They were clueless. What they didn't know was that I had already taken steps, the twist they didn't see coming. I had a gut feeling something shady might happen. Not exactly like this, but something. After growing up in that household, I knew how they operated. A few months earlier, I sat with my lawyer and made updates to my estate paperwork. The house still legally belonged to me, but it had been moved into a trust under my name. That meant it couldn't be passed around with a quick signature. Even if they tried to submit something without my knowledge, it wouldn't change anything. The house was fully shielded. They were totally unaware. Mark rolled his eyes. "We'll figure it out," he muttered while pulling out his phone. "Probably to search online how to steal a house." My mom, meanwhile, changed her tone. She slipped into her sweet voice, the one she always used to get me to do favors. "Sweetie," she said softly, "you don't understand. Mark needs this house. He has nowhere to go." I placed the glass down again. "And neither did you," I replied, voice cool and steady. "That's why I bought it for both of you." "But I guess that didn't matter, did it?" She winced. "We just thought it's only fair. You have a great job. You're doing well. Mark is not as lucky." "That's not my problem," I said. "He grew up with the same family. He had equal chances, but he never had to earn anything because you constantly saved him. And now you thought you could just take my house and gift it to him." Her eyes began to water. "I didn't want to hurt you." I nearly laughed again. "Really? Then what were you planning to do? Let me walk in someday and find out I had no place to stay." She swallowed hard. "We were going to tell you." Mark scoffed. Yeah, you were. Once it failed, that's when it hit me. Mark had known from the beginning. He wasn't left out of it. He was in on everything, and he thought he had come out on top. That's what really got to me. Not that my family had turned on me, not even that my mom had smiled while doing it, but that Mark had enjoyed it. Unfortunately for him, I wasn't finished yet. A few weeks later, I filed fraud charges against them. The house officially belonged to me again, and I made sure there was no way they could touch it. The tables had turned. My parents were forced to move out, and even though Mark had tried to argue, he had no leg to stand on. It was like the final blow in a game I hadn't even known we were playing. They'd taken everything for granted, thinking they could win by betraying me, but in the end, they were left with nothing. Ethan had the last laugh. They say family is everything, but sometimes the ones closest to you can hurt you the most. I gave everything to them, my time, my money, my trust. Yet when it came down to it, they saw me as nothing more than a means to an end. It's painful to realize that love isn't always unconditional, but in the end, I've learned that loyalty has to be earned, not demanded. I built my own peace, and now I'll protect it no matter what. Some betrayals run too deep to forgive, but that doesn't mean I have to lose myself in the process.